In this chapter, you'll learn how to use the keyboard and how to read some of the screen displays on your new computer. For the time being, we won't be working with disks. Your computer has enough power without a disk in its drive to help you learn about the keyboard. We'll add disk operating procedures in the next chapter. As you begin to practice with your computer, don't be afraid to press any of the keys. There is nothing you can do from the keyboard that will cause any major problems. Many people are afraid of pressing a wrong key for fear of doing something to their computer. Don't be afraid. The worst that can happen is that you'll have to start a program over. Let's start with a brief overview of your new keyboard. Obviously, there are more keys than on a standard typewriter. However, as you begin to operate your computer, you'll discover that those additional keys really do help make your work easier and faster. Notice that in the center area there are lighter colored keys that have most of the same characters and layout as a standard typewriter. These are used much the same way as you would use a typewriter. Around the outside of the light-colored typewriter-like keys are a group of darker colored keys. These are used frequently to give instructions to your computer while you're running programs. These keys are sometimes called modifier keys and help change or modify the function of other keys on your keyboard. We'll examine and use each of these in a moment. On the far right side of your keyboard is a group of keys known as the numeric keypad. In addition to the numbers 0 through 9, there are keys labeled with the plus and minus sign, a decimal point, and a large key at the top labeled numlock. Notice that most of the keys on the numeric keypad also have symbols on them, such as the 7 key, which has the word home, and the decimal key with DEL for delete. We'll run through some exercises with those keys later. Finally, on the far left is a group of 10 keys known as program function keys. They are very useful when you're running programs. We'll be more specific about these later. Right now, be sure your system is powered up and that this display is on your screen. You are now going to do an exercise with 3 of the keys. Find the key labeled CTRL. This is known as the control key. Hold it down with your left forefinger. Now find the key labeled ALT. This is the alternate key. While you're still holding the control key with your forefinger, press the alternate key with your left thumb and hold it down. Now find the key labeled DEL on the right-hand side of your keyboard, the same delete key we just looked at a moment ago. While you are holding the first 2 keys down with your left hand, press the delete key once. Notice that your display cleared and your computer acted the same way it did a few minutes ago when you first turned it on and ran the power on self-test. Only this time it didn't take quite as long. Finally, the first screen display returned to where it was when we started this chapter. You just performed what is called a system reset. When you held down the control key and alternate key while you pressed the delete key, you told your computer to lose all the contents of random access memory, RAM, and to reload all the permanent data that stays in the ROM back into RAM. In effect, you reset the entire system to the state that it was in right after you had powered up. If you'd been working on a program and had a lot of new information in memory when you did the system reset, you would have lost it forever, unless you had previously saved it on some external memory device. The control key you just used is always used in conjunction with some other key to perform some specialized function. Go ahead and type a few letters. Now, hold down the control key and press the key labeled Home. Notice that the upper part of your screen cleared and the cursor moved to the upper leftmost position. That position is known as the Home position. The function you performed is known as a control function. You'll run across other combinations of control and key functions as you begin to run software on your computer. In fact, in many pre-written commercial programs, you'll see this symbol with a letter or a letter inside of square brackets to signify that you must hold the control key down while you strike the designated key to perform a specific command. Right now, you should have the cursor at the upper left-hand corner of your display, the home position. It is flashing, waiting for you to tell it something. It also shows you where on the screen the next character you type will appear. Now press any letter key and hold it down. Notice that the letter prints on the screen at the cursor, pauses for a moment, then keeps repeating as long as you hold the key down. You'll find this a very useful feature later. This automatic repeat is available on all the keys with letters, numbers, and symbols. But because the keys have automatic repeat, you could find you have more than one letter or command because you held the key down too long. Now type a row of characters across the length of the screen and continue typing when you get to the end of the row. Notice that the cursor came to the end of the row and then continued the characters that you were typing on the next line. This is called wraparound, and it means you don't have to press any keys when you come to the end of a row, the way you might have pressed return on a typewriter. Your computer is capable of displaying 25 lines of up to 80 characters per line. It also displays upper and lowercase letters. The shift keys at each end of the keyboard function just like those in a typewriter. While holding down either shift key and striking another of the letter keys, the uppercase or capital version of that letter appears on your display. If you want to continue typing all capital letters, you can lock the letter keys into uppercase by pressing the caps lock key on the board and then typing. To unlock it, simply press it again. Do this now. There is one particular characteristic of the caps lock function that you should be aware of. If you have the caps lock key on for typing all uppercase letters and hold down either shift key and type a letter, you'll get a lowercase letter. This will continue while the shift key is held down. Try it. The symbols that appear on the top of the number keys and on top of some of the letter keys can only be used by pressing the shift key. The caps lock key does not control their use. Perhaps the most frequently used key on any computer is the Enter key, and it's the most important. On your IBM personal computer, it is the key toward the right-hand side of the keyboard that has this symbol on it. It is sort of like the period at the end of a sentence. It tells your computer you have given a command, and here it is. Some computer manufacturers call it a return key. Now go ahead and type the first few letters of the alphabet. Then press the Enter key. You told your computer to recognize A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. It doesn't recognize that as a command, and it isn't programmed to do anything when it sees that combination of letters followed by an Enter command. And so it responded with a syntax error message. Basically, pressing the Enter key is a signal to the CPU that you want the computer to understand and act on the message you have just typed in. However, your computer must be programmed to understand the command you're giving it. Since you typed no recognizable message, you got this message back from your computer. Syntax error. However, it's a very forgiving slave, and it also said, "I'm still okay. Try something that I'll understand." That OK message means that Programming Language Basic is loaded in memory and will understand commands that it has been programmed to understand. It's up to you to give it a command it understands. Incidentally, the version of the Language Basic that is loaded now is called Cassette Basic and is programmed into ROMs in your computer at the factory. There are two other levels of BASIC available to you when you're using disks. DOS Basic can be loaded from a disk, as can DOS Advanced Basic, called Basic A. Don't be too concerned about languages right now. We'll cover them in more depth in Chapter 7. You may have noticed that there are several new symbols that don't appear on an ordinary typewriter keyboard. Those symbols are the vertical dashes, the backslash, the tilde, the grave accent or reverse apostrophe, square brackets, left and right, braces, left and right, angle brackets, left and right, and the caret or circumflex. Many programming languages use these symbols for various functions, and they add to the versatility of your computer. In most programs involving mathematics, it's necessary to use a symbol for multiplication and a symbol for division. The asterisk is usually used for multiplication and the / is used for division. The numeric keypad has numbers laid out like a calculator or adding machine and allows you to enter numbers faster than by using the top row of number keys on the main keyboard. Although both sets of keys will enter numbers, you have your choice. Find the numlock key at the top of the numeric keypad. When you press the numlock key once, the numeric keypad lets you type numbers. Press it again and the functions marked on the number keys take over. This numlock key is like a toggle, an on-off switch between the numbers and the functions. The decimal point key and the 0 key are also toggled on or off with the numlock key. Take a minute now to practice using the numlock key and all the keys on the numeric keypad to see what they do. Now would be a good time to mention the letter O and the 0 keys. Your IBM needs a way to distinguish between the letter O and the number 0. You should be careful that you don't type O when you mean 0 or vice versa. A program expecting a value 0 will not recognize the letter O as anything other than what it is, the letter O. The same is true of the number 1 key and the lowercase l. From your typing habits, you might try to enter a lowercase l when you mean the value 1. Again, your computer can't tell you mean a value 1 if you actually type it as the lowercase letter l. This could be another time when a program might not run correctly. Now press the key labeled Home. It is also the number 7 key on the numeric keypad. If you see the number 7 appear on your screen at the cursor, toggle the numlock key and press Home again. Notice that your cursor moved back to the home position, but that nothing was erased from the screen. Since you didn't hold down the control key when you pressed the home key, you told your computer to return the cursor to the home position, but not to erase any characters on the screen. You've already used the control key, the alternate key, and the shift keys. They are modifier keys because they modify the function of other keys. This is an important point to remember because you'll use the modifier keys frequently. The control key is probably the most often used modifier key. Remember, to use the control key, you hold it down and keep it down while you strike the other key. The alternate key is used with the letter A through Z keys to enter words in the language BASIC. Try it. Press the Alt key and then press 3 or 4 letter keys. You won't need this particular use of the alternate key until you get into programming. The Tab key functions much in the same way it does in a typewriter, moving the cursor a predetermined number of spaces. The Tab key on your IBM personal computer is set every 8 characters. In addition to the keys, your space bar is an important part of the keyboard. You'll find that the location of spaces can be vital to successful programming and operation. Once you get to the point that you're copying someone else's program from a printed list, pay particular attention to where the spaces are located and be sure you place them in the same spot. A program might not run correctly if spaces are placed wrong or don't exist. Now we'll show you how you can correct typing errors, then give some time to try out all the keys we have just mentioned. Use your down arrow key to move your cursor down to a new line. Remember to toggle numlock if you need to. Go ahead and type about a half a line of letters. Use the left arrow key to move the cursor to the left over some of those characters. Now start typing different letters over the old ones. Notice how the new letters replace the old ones. Now type the line, "Now is the time for all good." Oh well, we better go back and correct the word "for." Using the cursor movement or arrow keys, move the cursor back until it is on top of the letter I in the word "for." Then type the letter O over the I. Now move the cursor back over to where you left off using the right arrow key and continue to type. When you come to the end of the sentence, stop. You corrected the error in the word for by backspacing the cursor, overstriking the letter, and using the right arrow cursor movement key to move the cursor back to where you left off. Another way of correcting typing mistakes is by using the delete key. Go ahead and type a few more characters. Now move the cursor back under the last character you typed and press the delete key. Notice that the last character disappeared and the cursor is flashing at that position, ready for you to type in a new character. An even easier way to delete characters is with the backspace key. Type a few more characters. Now press the key on the top row of the keyboard with the arrow pointing left. It is the backspace key and will automatically erase the last character to the left of the cursor with each keystroke. You may also insert characters into an already typed line using the key labeled INS underneath the number 0. Clear your display right now by holding down the Control key and pressing the Home key. Now type another line of characters. Move your cursor back under several characters and activate the Insert key by pressing it once. Notice that the cursor has changed shape. It's now a box rather than a line. This box tells you that your computer is in the insert mode. Now type several letters or words. Notice that as you type in new characters, all of those characters to the right of the cursor move to the right, making room for those new characters. You've inserted new characters into an already typed line. With the cursor still where it is, toggle the Insert key off and continue to type more characters. Notice that with the Insert key turned off, each new character you type replaces the previously typed character. These functions that you've been performing to correct your work are usually called edit functions. They allow you to edit or change your work, to correct your mistakes quickly. Another key which can help you edit is the Escape key. Now press the Escape key. Notice that when you press the Escape key, the entire row that you had typed disappeared from sight. Your cursor is now waiting for you to type in new characters. You may be wondering what happens when I type down at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead and try it. Type several characters, then press the Enter key. You'll get an error message, then a line which says OK. Do this several times until the cursor is down at the bottom of your display. Continue to type characters, then press the Enter key. Notice that as you need more vertical space to type more lines, the screen display moves up a line at a time to give you more space. This is called scrolling. You could actually move all of the text up and off the screen if you were to hold the Enter key down. The key in the upper right of the keyboard labeled Scroll Lock, when used with the Control key, will also scroll the screen and move everything up. Hold down the Control key and press Scroll Lock until your screen is clear. Notice that your cursor is at the bottom of your screen. In some programs, the keys labeled Page Up and Page Down will allow you to scroll your entire display up or down. You'll find this quite handy later. A little later in this video program, we'll show you how you can save data that you have typed onto a disk so that it won't be lost if something happens. Another way to save work you may be doing is to have it printed out on a printer. There is a key labeled PRTSC. It means print screen. Basically, it allows anything on your display screen to be printed on a printer you have connected to your computer. To use the print screen key, you must first be sure your printer is connected properly, turned on, ready to print onto paper. You must hold the Shift key down while you press the print screen key. Once you've done this, your computer will, in effect, take a snapshot of the particular screen you have displayed. As we said earlier, you can't really damage your computer by striking any keys on the keyboard. However, there could be a problem if any liquid or powder gets spilled onto the keyboard or disk drive. This could cause your computer to malfunction. Watch what you do with your coffee, tea, or soft drinks when you're near your computer. You might want to spend some time practicing with your new keyboard. Go ahead now and get yourself familiar with the keys or review this chapter. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to work with your disk drives. In a few minutes, you'll start to use floppy disks and your